on Facebook. Welcome, welcome everyone. And let me go ahead and put the topic here. Hello, Facebook. Hello, hello. I am pinning the topic today. We are talking about, I'm live on Instagram and Facebook today. And I will upload this to YouTube again, but we're talking about no context, y'all. We're talking about what do you do when you have to see the people that you go into no contact with or that you feel like you need to go in no contact with every day. This is a really common question that I get from people who are um, considering doing no contact. People who are like, okay, this relationship is really toxic. It doesn't work for me, but this is a person who's in my mutual friend group. This is a person who we work together. This is a family member. So how do I cope with that? What is it that I do? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about emotionally, how do you deal with that overwhelm and what that looks like. Okay, so as always, if this is your first time joining me, my name is Sheena Lachey. I am a love addiction and relational trauma coach. I specialize in helping women heal from the symptoms of love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, and the trauma that causes it to make way for healthy love with their family members, with their friendships, with their lovers, and most importantly, with themselves. That as we heal in ourselves, we see the change in the relationships around us. And sometimes we start with outside relationships and then we realize, I wasn't as good as I thought I was. I wasn't as perfect as I thought I was. I guess there are still some tools and skills for me to learn, and that's okay. It's okay for you to be imperfect. It's okay for you to have space to grow because that's how you learn more about yourself. Okay. Tasha said, oh my God, this came at the right time. Good. Like I said, this is a really common question that I get. So I wanted to, I don't think I've ever done a live about it. So I wanted to talk about it. I'm doing a lot of lives on No Context right now for those of you who are also joining me for the first time, because next week I'm doing a support group for 30 days for people who need to break trauma bonds from toxic people. And so we already have women who have enrolled in the group. They're sharing their stories. So there are people who are there who are taking breaks from their moms, people who are taking breaks from ex-lovers of all genders. We have people who are taking breaks from other toxic codependent relationships. So if there are people that you've continued to try to say no to, that you've continued to try to maintaining your sense of self-worth and self-love, but it's just so triggering to be around them. It's triggering. You go just a few weeks before you come back, or sometimes it's such a common story from the women in the group who've gone like a year or longer, and then they just return back to the same relationship. I hear it all the time. You are not an anomaly, and that's why I talk about this process so much, because you need to have tools and not trick yourself into thinking that this is a willpower thing versus this is a extension of your trauma. So whenever I do lives, I really love interaction so that we can go off into tangents. So if there are any questions that come up as we talk about this, please let me know. I'm just pulling up the Facebook page so I can see the comments real time. Okay, awesome. All right. So how do you know? Let's talk about this first. How do you know that there is a relationship that qualifies for you to go in no contact from? I was in the 12-step program, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, for several years. And that is how I got introduced to the term love addiction. Even though I operated as a therapist and I was licensed therapist for over 12 years, I found myself in love addictive patterns. My specialization was relationships. I went to get my master's in relationships, but somehow whenever I was trying to put boundaries down for myself, I kept gravitating towards unhealthy people. So in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, I learned that a qualifying relationship was any relationship that you felt like you lost your power around. Any relationship, and this is a strong paraphrase, but any relationship that you felt powerless to. Step one, admit that you're powerless. And so that means that I could be very strong and have boundaries and not really be triggered around other people and maintain my sense of self-worth. I wouldn't be so quick to give in. I wouldn't be so quick to try to change myself to fit what they want me to be. I wouldn't be so quick to acquiesce, but around them, I would regress. So I've had that with employers who triggered me, who triggered this this immediate response to please them, to make them feel happy with me. I've had this with lovers, of course, who I was very afraid for them to leave me. And I've had this with lovers both when we were together and also when we weren't together too. So it was really hard for me to not respond back to texts that were just checking in. It was hard for me that even if they were the ones who left, for me to not obsess around, are they thinking about me? Do they care about me? For me to play out these vivid fantasies of them coming back to me, only for that to not happen. For people who were just clearly disrespectful to me, that no matter how much crap I talked to my family, to my therapist, to other people, they hit me at the right day, at the right time, I would fall in line. I've been codependent and almost addicted to saying yes, addicted to people pleasing, even when I put myself into emotional, mental, financial, spiritual danger with family members. And just the shame and the heaviness of saying no, and having to sit with that was not worth the pain I felt. It was easier for me to give in. Is that making sense? Can anybody else here? Does anybody else here who's live relate to being in qualifying relationships with people that no matter where, no matter what has happened, and no matter how many receipts you have, no matter what has gone on in the past, like whenever they come around, maybe you can hold tight for a little bit, but whenever they come around, it's kind of easy for you to give in. Yeah. Nikki says it makes sense. Okay, great, awesome. So sometimes when we talk about no contact, it's not easy to do the process, but it's easier for you to conceptualize, because when we talk about the way I teach no contact, it's not just you're not talking to them, but it's a true removal of energy from them. It's removal from allowing yourself to fantasize about them, allowing them to be a part of your daily life. But when they are part of your everyday life, it gets tricky. It gets tricky because all the things I was talking about, especially if you're a people pleaser and you really fall into codependent practices, you worry about hurting their feelings. If this at work, you worry about this affecting your job. You worry about seeming unprofessional. You worry about gossip getting through the family rankings. If this is a family member that you want to cut ties with, like what are the other family members going to think about me? Am I going to be in charge of breaking up the family? And none of that is the case. So here's the first thing I want to tell you. This is something that you're working through, coping through, letting go of people, is the consequences for toxic behaviors and actions is not on you, it's on them. So the last thing I said, that sometimes we do not, Tasha, I did not see your comment. So if you dropped a comment, put it back down again because I missed it. Sometimes we will not take breaks from people in relationships because we're worried about how it's going to affect other people, and how it's going to affect the system at large. But if the person who's been doing the behaviors has been crossing your boundaries and being unprofessional and pushing you and insulting you, trying to use you, they're the ones who have been causing destruction in the family, not you. Okay, so let me give two different examples for two different settings to be clear. Let's say you have an ex that you have a traumatic bond with at work. They're a coworker, right? And you are worried about doing no contact because how are you going to do your job? What are other people going to think? Is it going to make the system kind of messy? When you are at work, you are at work. Okay, you are there to communicate with the stakeholders that you need to. You're there to complete projects with colleagues. You are there to clock in, send emails, and clock out. You are not there to emotionally take care of coworkers. If you do your no contact by they come and talk to you and then you just look at them and then you don't talk to them at all, then yeah, you are impeding the workflow. But you don't have to sit and kiki and make everybody feel warm and make everybody feel like everything is okay. You're there to do your job and to be professional, right? And so one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind too is you need to be clear of what it is that you want to do. How is it that I want to show up in a space? What is safe for me? One of the first things that love addicts have to learn how to do is to not filter and measure if taking care of themselves is the right thing by who's going to be happy with it. It's almost like you take votes in your mind, either in your mind or you actually ask people. So you know what you want, you know what you need, you know what's going to make you feel safe, but it's like, okay, well, let me run this by my girlfriend and see what she thinks. Or let me go and ask my mama and see what she thinks. Or let me go and ask these other 3 friends in the group chat and see what they think. And let me go and talk to HR and see what they think. Like, you don't trust your own intuition and you don't trust your own ability to say, you know what, this hurts. And the fact that this hurts is enough for me to cut this as a boundary. Okay. So that's one thing for you to keep in mind, that when you're doing no contact with people that you see every day, what is it that I want? What is it that I need? What is it that's going to make me feel safe? And it's okay if other people don't like it. It's okay if the person that you're trying to go into no contact with is still trying to get at you and still trying to reconcile and still trying to talk to you. But every time you talk to them, every time you reconnect with them, it gets worse, it gets messier, it gets more destructive. And it's okay for you to be the adult in the relationship and pull back. A lot of times I see people who are like, they see that that's the dynamic, that to be in contact with them is really destructive. And so they'll be like, okay, I decide I'm going to go and pull back. And so then they go and they have the conversation with that person. And they're like, you know what? I've been reviewing what's been going on. I've been thinking about it. And I think it's time for me to pull back. And they like have this whole explanation of why they want to say that and where it's coming from. And I've been thinking about it for a long time. And it's almost like you're trying to persuade this person to agree with you. They don't need to agree with you. Who's in charge of taking care of you? And I'm gonna wait for an answer for this one. I know that there's a delay. And Tasha, I saw your comment. I'm gonna come back to it. But who's in charge of taking care of you? I want y'all to put in the chat. Who's in charge of taking care of you? Who's in charge of making sure that you feel emotionally safe, that you get the relationships that you want, and that you get what you need? Who's in charge of that? You. Absolutely. Right? And you don't need a chorus of people to agree. But again, where the roots of all of our love addictive behaviors and love avoidance and even love deprivation behaviors come from is us being so attuned to the environment and people being okay. Because we've learned that when people are not okay, then comes the backlash, whether or not they start to freeze you out, they start talking about you, they remove resources. I don't know if anybody's trauma is related to, you literally have to make sure that the adults and other people are good with you, because if not, they literally won't take care of you, right? Like, how deep does that go? You don't unlearn that just because you add a few years and decades to your life, right? And that reflective understanding of how the world works, because that's how your world works, you learn how to incorporate that into your relationships with other people. So either you lean into people pleasing, or you lean into, I don't need anybody. And the gag is, what I always find with my love avoiding people is, even if they are really good about cutting people off, they're always so flabbergasted whenever they get into most likely a romantic partnership, but also like friendship relationships with people that they take care of, people who are not on their level, but they seem just so broken and they're like, they need me. And, I can't tell them no, like I hate giving in, but I can't tell them no because they need me. They get so surprised by that addictive need to people please with certain people in their lives, you know? And it's all based in trauma. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, let me go up to this comment before I get too far. Tasha, my love. I love every time you join, my dear. Okay. So I don't think that's where it started. Okay. So Tasha says, I hung up proud of myself. Okay, so I'm assuming somebody who you didn't want to talk to, or that you're in no contact with, called you and you hung up and you're proud of yourself. Good job. But it hurt that he is still acting the same way. Wish he actually wanted to sincerely apologize, but it is what it is. Y'all, that's also how you stay in no contact. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is because, and that was almost the topic for today. It was going to be something to the effect of why it's hard to block them or why willpower is enough. But a lot of times people don't do no contacts fully and they try to remix the process because they just think, you know what, I don't need to do all that. I am an adult, I'm strong enough. I know myself. I don't need to block them. But the reason you need to block them is because people who are emotionally manipulative are better at this than you are. They are better at wearing you down than you are at saying no. They know if they just keep calling and picking and leaving messages and leaving little drop-ins and everything, even if you ignore it, if you see it, it is only a matter of time before you pick up. It's only a matter of time before you start reading them, even if you don't respond. And it's like dropping little seeds until the day that you do pick up the phone. And sometimes they're on that BS where it looks like they're saying all the right things about how they like want to try again and they've been thinking and everything. And, they give a fake apology um, to just drag you back in until it stays the same. And sometimes they're very obviously still the same place that they are. And then you're like, oh my God, why did I answer the phone? And, I just, and then like now you're all stirred up, right? Now you're all, even if you set the boundary and you're like, I don't want to talk to them and I'm not going to talk to them again. Now in your mind, you're replaying all the fights, you're replaying all the ways that you try to work with them, all the grace you gave them. You're getting angry about why can't they see what a good thing they have in front of them? Why can't they see what a good daughter I am and how much I've tried? Why can't they see that I did try? Why can't they just go to therapy? Why can't they? And now you're in distress. The trauma bonded relationships do so much damage for us in so many domains and in so many places and in so many ways. It's not just that we're going back and forth with someone. It damages our sense of self-worth because we think, how can I love someone with everything that I have? Again, across all relationship domains, friendship, romantic, family, how can I give them everything and they still tell me that I'm not enough? And you internalize that I'm not enough. There's something wrong, right? Or you see all the stuff that they're doing and all of your tactics and all your methods to control, all of your convincing, all of your ways. If there's someone who play very helpless and as if they can't take care of themselves and they just can't help it, all of your ways to try to scaffold them and make them a better person, they continue to choose defeat, they continue to sabotage, and then it plays on you're not doing enough. It plays on that there's something wrong with you and your ability to save someone, because somewhere along the way you learned that it's your responsibility to save people, right? And that's not your responsibility. Let me keep scrolling because I think I saw something else. Tasha said, I did that, it didn't work, it made it worse. I think you're talking about trying to be nice. Oh, that's the beginning of your comment. Whoops. I hung up right when I just said, what are you doing? Like nothing happened. Oh man, those big head texts are crazy. They're crazy. All right. If y'all ready for the next point, go ahead and drop a heart. And for those of you who are just joining me, hello. We are talking about how to cope when you have to see no contact people every day. So people that you are in an addictive relationship with, or that you were in a trauma bonded relationship with. And it's not as simple as just saying, I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to see them, because you actually have to see them every day. Y'all share family together. Y'all share mutual friends. Y'all share work environments. How do you cope emotionally with that? Okay. Thank you for the heart. Awesome. Okay. The second thing that you need to do is, once you're honest with how this is going to affect you emotionally and that this does hurt, actually, I don't think I said that as a point. Being honest with yourself about how this is going to affect you is really important, because I see a lot of people who will try to push through this and numb out. So the way that they get through no contact with someone that they're in a trauma bonded relationship with is that they say things like, I don't care. They try to distract themselves. They try to move on. They try to, act like they're living their best life without them, until they find out that that person is also acting like they don't care, until they find out that that person may also have gotten into another relationship until they find out that that person is not threatened by the fact that you're not talking to them. And then all of those feelings come back. Like there's something like you have been emotionally torn up to the point that you've had to minimize your feelings, and it's like they don't care. And that's a refrain that I hear so often from women. Like, I'm over here, like, so sad, and they're over there living life like nothing ever happened. Right. And so it's important for you to be honest about your emotions, because your emotions don't go away just because you try to act like it doesn't affect you. Right. Um, just because you try to act like you are removed from them, the emotions come out through your stress and your sleep. They come out through um, um, irritation with other people. They come out if you try to self-soothe in other areas of your life by other addictive processes. So whether or not you work a lot, whether or not you drink a lot, whether or not you exercise a lot, whether or not you literally try to leave the country and like travel, it still affects you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, yes, that makes sense. Okay, great, awesome. So when you're honest with yourself about emotionally how this is affecting you, then you can pick up tools to deal with how it's affecting you. Okay. So some tools that we talk about here is learning the process of self-affirmation and self-talk. Um, One tool that we talk about a lot that's really going to be talked about heavily in our no contact support group is tapping. Tapping is one of my favorite tools to teach about because it's something that's immediate and something that you can use um, if you're in the middle of a work meeting. You can use it if it's late at night and you have nobody to talk to, and it really helps you deal with your trauma triggers. So in our groups, there's going to be different scripts that I go over with y'all about how to tap through that and how to get to the bottom of it and how to use that as a tool, and a whole lot of other tools as well. But you need to have something in the moment, because if you're going to a family gathering and there's someone there, you have an uncle, or you have your mom, or you have a sibling who's a narcissist and someone who really just picks at you. Often when it comes to friendships, I hear about things like there's a wedding coming up, or there's a baby shower, and then everybody is going to be there, and you are trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Like, I have to be there and put a smile on my face. I want you to know that you don't have to go into freeze response and shut off your body, and so that you go and end up crying in the bathroom, or you go and end up feeling like crap because you you don't want to mess up the event, right? Or you don't want to make other people feel sad. That there are a whole lot of things that you can do on your own. But then also the other thing, y'all, is sometimes I feel like when it comes to no contact and people thinking about the toxic relationships that have really hurt them, if it's a relationship that you've thought about in your head for so long and you've talked to so many people about, you think they don't want to hear about this anymore. I can't talk about this. And so you keep it to yourself. And so using your community, using people around you to talk to you about this is so important. Your feelings matter. And we're going to be talking about that as well. Like, how do I ask people? How do I figure out who are the right people to talk to? Right? Because sometimes you'll talk to a friend and it's hard for you to assess, okay, is this someone who's actually safe for me? Because sometimes the friend has just as many toxic relationships as you. And even if that's okay, if they are moving towards being healthier. Sometimes people who are on a certain level, they enable you because violence, drama, trauma is their normal. So when you tell them something really negative happens, you're like, oh man, like at most they'll be like, oh man, that sucks. Or they'll tell you to do something toxic back, or it just feels like you're talking to a wall. So we need to find people who are actually going to help us move forward. Okay. So I missed some comments. Hey Joy, thank you for buying a badge. Good to see you, my dear. I've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about reaching out for lunch. So if you're still here, text me. Um, and sorry in advance if it takes me a minute to text you back. I'm over here talking about love avoidance. But I've been dealing with my health and all that stuff. But text me. Tasha says, do you feel if you should say hi to those people if they say hi to you when you happen to see them out? So if I'm in no contact with someone, you don't exist. unless you have to exist. Okay, so a really important point before I keep going with that is thinking about, do I actually have to talk to these people, or am I thinking that I have to, right? So let's talk about a family gathering. If there's someone at a family reunion or a family event that I'm in no contact with, I think sometimes people make up this whole story that, I have to sit and check in with them and tell them what's going on with my life and have this whole catch up conversation. Says who? Says who? Like, why do I don't have to tell what's going on in my personal life with anybody that I feel unsafe with? Is someone going to come and lock you up and send you to jail? Is it going to be drama if you don't tell them? Okay, will it be trauma if you do tell them? So which one is it? Which one are we picking? Are we going to pick the option where you actually feel like you have a semblance of control and emotional safety, and that you don't feel emotionally taken advantage of and stripped and drained and depleted? Or are we going to pick the one where they're ranting and raving and carrying on and realizing that that's about them? But in this context, I think you're talking about, just based on your other questions, I think you're talking about an ex-lover. If I see an ex-lover outside and I am in no contact with them, why do I don't see, I'm blind, I can't see, I'm blind. Like I don't need to talk to you. You don't exist, right? If they come up and say hi, first of all, I I think here's what I'll say. I think sometimes these situations also happen, and tell me if I'm wrong, is I think sometimes the area kind of gets gray because if there's someone that I'm in no contact with and I'm not committed to no contact as a healing tool for myself because I'm trying to take care of myself emotionally, but it's sort of kind of still like I want them to know like I don't care about them and I want them to like feel what it feels like to not have me in their life. Like if it's kind of like 70-30 and it's still a little bit of the gaming stuff, I'm not going to be as vigilant about making sure that you can't cross the room and talk to me. Like, it's not that I'm going to like place myself for you to talk to me, but I'm going to be in the corner talking to my friend. And in my head, I'm going to be like, does he see me? Or I bet he's going to come over. And then just playing in your head. And so like you're partly you're mad, but then also it's like, I bet he's going to come over. And y'all know how good that feels. Don't play with me. You know how good it feels with someone that you have been beefing with and you've been giving them the silent treatment when they call you first. That stuff's intoxicating. That feels good. Like, yeah, like I knew you missed this. So nobody can tell me that if you are not completely like connected to this process for you, and you see someone and you're in the 70-30% and they're in the same place, you can't tell me that there's not a part of you that's like, I don't want to be found, but it's like and like you're playing through the revenge. Like, thank you for the hearts. I know I'm not the no, I ain't the only petty little love addict out there. That stuff feels good. So if I am actually really doing this for me, I'm going to make sure if I'm in outside gathering that I'm truly going to avoid, put up barriers, that I'm going to enlist friends or family members as bodyguards and backup to make sure they keep them away from me. If they try to talk to me, I can say, okay, let's say it actually does happen. And I'll talk about this more in a group, but let me give y'all something right now because it matters the scenarios. Like you can't, doing this with an ex-lover who's a narcissist is going to be different than doing this with someone who, you know, goes to you, right? Like the abuse levels are different. It's going to be different than doing this with a mother who is the matriarch of the family, and really good about starting stuff, like it's going to be a different tactic, but I'm just going to say this now. And then if this is something you need help with, join us in the group. But if they came over and said hi, and I did not want to talk to them, I did everything I could to avoid talking to them, and they somehow got through, I would say, um, hello, because my mama raised me right. So that could be bad or not. But most of the time I would walk away. Like if I was cornered, no, I wouldn't say hello. Let me think through this. If they came to me and were cornered and they said hello, I would just walk away. And that's what I teach my clients to do. I know why I was trying to go and like do something else. I teach y'all to walk away. I teach y'all to walk away. Because why? They're not your friends. You know where it's going to go. Most of the time, also what we talk about in the no contact process is whether or not you're going to tell them you're going into no contact or not. And if so, how do you start that conversation? And most of the time, the women that I work with, they always feel like they need to tell the person that they're doing no contact. Like they can't, they feel like they wouldn't be able to sleep at night if they don't tell them, which is totally fine. And so the person knows you're not talking to them. So if they come over to try to talk to you intentionally, that's another example of them totally disregarding your boundaries and doing something because it makes them feel good, because they want to see whatever the reaction is, get the affirmation from you, restart a connection. They're not even connected to how dysfunctional it is. So I wouldn't play into it. I hope that answers your questions. Someone said, Melinda said, how do you feel about gray rock? I don't know what gray rock is. Um, does this link to emotional boundaries? In what way do you mean emotional boundaries, Miss Leanne? And good to see you, boo. Tasha said, I literally walked through the door and it was right in front of me. So it's hard for me to not say anything. Oh, here's the other thing about no contact. Sometimes y'all, I'm saying y'all with love. Sometimes y'all put way too much pressure on yourself to do this perfectly too. If you walk through the door and you see someone and your reflex is high, but then you immediately walk away, like, first of all, again, your mama raised you right, like you got home training. Like that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean you need to start the process all over. You know, when I talk about no contact as a healing tool, I talk about doing the 90 days fully until you get through 90 days. To not like say, okay, well, I did 12 days and then but then you talk to them and then you're like, okay, and then you're on day 13. No, we are learning how to get out of the addictive process and learning how to build a true life that's based on fulfillment, and that we don't feel like we need to talk to them, that we have it in our body what it feels like to not only not talk to them, but be happy, truly happy. Again, I know lots of people who have not talked to someone for over a year, and that but you haven't been in touch with healing what are those fears and those thoughts that come up that made you be in that addictive relationship in the first place. So I'm going to be teaching y'all, this is how you feel your life. This is how you utilize your community and everything. So especially for those of you who already have therapists, you can go ahead and talk about those trauma and trigger things there. You know, those things will come up and they will become uncovered. And if you're with your therapist, you can work through that there. You can talk in our community and ask other women what they have gone through, how they work with it. If you're like, I'm ready to like get at the deeper root and I don't have a therapist, or I really like how you teach and everything, Sheena, then you can do our recovery school program. Like that's literally what it's built for, to get at those roots and teach you how to do relationships differently. You know, so there's options for that. But not talking to someone for a year does not mean you're in no contact, especially if you're still doing the fantasizing, if you're still replaying, if you're still holding on to old fights in the past and thinking about them over and over and over, that you're still actively connected to them. Okay. And since I'm talking about restarting no contact, I'll just say this. That's one of the things that when I was watching how people did no contact in the 12-step program, that I didn't quite like either, because I didn't like the energy behind it. So when you think about something like Alcoholics Anonymous or Drug Addicts, Narcotics Anonymous or something like that, you know, there's a clear, if you relapse, you start over, right? You start over your days. But I feel like when it came to love addiction and the relapse, that people were using the no contact process and restarting that as a means of self punishment. what's the word? Flagellation, right? Like, and so they'd be like, oh, I talked to him again. And they would come to the group so repentant and like almost like overcome with shame and how they're such bad people. And then they would go back into no contact as like their penance, versus seeing that no contact is for me. I'm doing no contact because I'm loving and amazing. And I felt alone the other day, and so I answered the phone. Or I got confused, and so I answered the phone. That there's more tenderness around it versus you're weak and you're shameful. I hope that makes sense, right? And I don't like that. I feel like many of us are in this situation because it's so hard for us to love ourselves in the first place. And so anything that we pick up, whether or not it has good intentions or not, if it makes us continue to feel like crap, it's not what we should be doing. Yes. And Tasha says, yes, it did feel a little good. um, then you said hi, and I said hi back, and have a light hug since he tried to hug me. Oh, girl, you hugged him too? Oh, man. Okay, I'll be blocked away next time because after you said hi, I guess he thought it was cool to call me. Girl, he should be blocked. That's the problem. Let's talk again about why I teach no contacts process and why I do this. That's the remix that I'm talking about. Natasha, you know, because you've been around. Trying to say, okay, I get the gist, and listening to the 2 hours of the podcast and saying, okay, I get what this is and I can do it, I can make it my own. And you still don't follow through all the way. That's how these things can slip through the cracks. And of course, there's a million different ways that people work through trauma bonded relationships. So this is not the only way that you can do, but it's the way that I've seen to be very successful for people to actually to heal. So that's why I teach this method. This is why I teach my method for no contact. Hey, Shauna, I don't know if you're still here, but hey. Tasha says, right, I definitely still count my 4 weeks and I'm going to keep going. I didn't choose to see him. I said hi and walked away. Awesome. Melinda says, Great Rock is a form of no contact I heard about. Not completely, not speaking to the person, just having simple conversations with them. I think my eyes kind of rolled in my head a little bit. Okay. So all right. One of the things I'm gonna say is I'm gonna say something. One of the things that I talk about when I tell my story and tell why I created Black Rose Heal in the realm of love addiction is I talk about how a lot of times really great advice, good relationship advice that is balanced, that is neutral, that comes from a place that can be very like skill filled, is presented to someone who struggles with love addiction, love avoidance as an option. And the skill is good. And the skill can work with other people, right? To learn how to like not live in the extremes, the either or. But what it doesn't take into account is that when someone is battling with love addiction or love avoidance, this isn't about logic. That you literally are being attracted to, and you're in a trauma bonded relationship with someone who is repeating your childhood trauma, and they will continue in a room full of 100 people. You have picked the one person that cannot respect a gray rock form of no contact, that they are going to take a little bit, they're going to take a crumb and they're going to push it. And they're going to go and go, and they're going to go and go. And because you are in a trauma bonded relationship where like the divots are like very deeply rung in, no matter how much you try with your willpower, you're going to succumb to that pattern. And so now you have the impact of this person and all the games that they're playing. And if there's insults and if there's other things that's involved in that dysfunctional relationship, you got the impact of that. Now you got the shame of, why do I care so much? Like Gray Rock says that I should be able to be balanced and like be able to have moderate conversations with them. Why is this affecting me so much? Why am I losing sleep? Why am I having panic attacks? Why does this hurt? Why can't I just be mature? Why can't I just be? And I think that is so horrible and destructive and gaslighting to people who are just trying to make it and trying to survive. I think by respecting the impact of what is happening and respecting, being honest about why I'm attracted to this relationship and why this relationship is different than other ones, I think that is a form of maturity. If I had problems with insulin resistance and diabetes, I'm not going to go into say, well, I should just get to a place where I'm able to have as much sugar as I want. It's going to be important for me to say, okay, this is something I have a sensitivity to. And there's so many other relationships. There's billions of other relationships in the world that I can build intimate connections with. Just because this relationship is one I have a sensitivity to has nothing to do with my emotional and mental health. Because I'm able to connect and bond with other people. And especially, and it takes responsibility again, that if you need to go do no contact with someone who's toxic because they are a narcissist, because they don't respect your boundaries, because they're a chronic cheater or abuser, because they are financially exploitive towards you and they're constantly asking you for money and they guilt you and they shame you, that's you taking responsibility for their bad behavior, saying that if I'm healthy, then I should be able to have a moderate conversation with them. And you're now you're gaslighting yourself on how fucked up their actions are towards you. And then you shouldn't have anybody around you who's treating you like that. So I don't like that. That's my answer. I don't like that. And I think there should be more people who understand what love addiction is. And I think when people are, and that's the other reason why I use terms like love addiction and love avoidance. And I don't say anxious attachment style. And I don't say avoidant attachment style, because there are some people who deal with anxious attachment and they can't relate to love addiction. Like they can hear me talk and like get some things from it. And they're like, yeah, I get nervous, but I just use my skills that I learned, or I just do this. And it's easier for them. And I love that for them, but not everybody is there. There are people who are amazing, conscious, wise people who do self-care and therapy every day. And when they get around certain people and certain relationships, they completely lose their sense of self. And it's not because they like destruction, they like misery, but it's because of the trauma patterns. So hopefully that makes sense. Right. Also, a lot of people are doing no TikTok, so people will contact them and want more. A lot of people doing no TikTok, so people will contact them and want more. So, like, not getting on TikTok, man, I'm not there yet. I'm right in TikTok until the government takes it away. Tasha says very true. We need to have grace for ourselves. No, he's blocked. He called me on a blocked number, girl. Oh, that's what I was saying. I hung up right after you said hello. Okay, I got you. I got you. I got you. Leanne says I see blocking as weak though. I see it as more as I'm trying so hard to not contact them. So it's more a thing for me to not make contact, as in I should have inner strength to not make contact without blocking. Yeah, so I don't know if you heard the first episode that I did about no contact, Leanne, in October, but I kind of talked about this and I talked about just a little bit just now, but it is subconscious and reflexive. So going back to the example I said, in a room full of 100 people, somehow in a room full of 100 people, and people who will be bright and shiny and love on you and accept you, and talk with you and say I'm sorry and be available for you. Somehow in a room of 100 people, there's this person that you're magnetically drawn to, right? Something you can't explain, something otherworldly, right? Something almost intuitive, right? That's powerful, right? And so when we try to say, okay, this unexplicable force that makes me stay attached to this person, I'm going to try to push through it. This magnetic force, I'm going to try to push through it with logic. That doesn't really help. It doesn't stop. And I think also when I think about that need to like be strong and everything, I think about how many of us get to that place where we feel like we have to be strong because that's the lie we've been told our whole life. That if you admit emotional sensitivity to anything, that you're weak. And people have used that to make you not have emotions, to make you self-reliant. And as a result, you think that admitting that there are some people that you are fragilely in love with, delicately in love with, that you have tenderness to, maybe that's a better way to say, especially because weakness is kind of like a trigger. Admitting that there's some people that you have a tenderness towards is evidence of your failure, versus is evidence of that your heart was doing what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to love people so much that you are willing to overlook their failures if they're willing to reach out and be present for you. That's why we have to be so careful with who we give our hearts to. And why? Because once we're attached, we're attached. You're supposed to attach to someone. That's how we're wired. But when you are attached to someone who is unhealthy and toxic towards you, then you can't use these mental mind games to try to break through it. So let me just say this. Let me just say this. When I talk about teaching no contact, I teach it as a healing tool, because there's a reason why you keep allowing yourself to answer the phone. And answer the phone or text. You didn't quite say exactly what's happening. And I don't even know if this is still present, but I'm just going to use this example because it's presented. There's a reason why you keep allowing this person in, because there's something that it gives you. And part of what the no contact process does to truly do it is it gives your nervous system, it gives your brain, it gives your body a chance to detach from the drug and see, what is it that I have been trying to get from this person? What is it? What is it that I am magnetically attached to and attracted to? And then deal with all the stuff that's underneath that. Because once you feel like you got what you need, once you know that you can get what you need, you don't need them anymore. So I'll tell you an example. There was one person I was friends with when I was in the 12-step program. And, we use each other as accountability partners. And she had finally decided to go into no contact from her ex. And I don't think they were living together, but, they came over all the time and that kind of stuff, had a key to their place and everything. So, serious relationship. And she had done no contact for a week, and then her washer and dryer broke. And she reached out to me, thankfully, before she contacted him. And she said, Sheena, I really want to contact, let's say his name was Mark. I really need to contact Mark because my washing machine is broke, and he always used to fix all the things around my house. And I really, I'm struggling financially, and I'm a single mom, and da 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 da. And she was like, I have to reach out to him. So I just needed to tell you. And I talked with her through what her thoughts were. And I'm talking to her as a friend, not as a therapist, right? Because I'm in her room too. So I'm talking to her, and I basically go through it, like the reasons why, all the other options that she has to get what she needs, and to wait on it. And by the end, she decided that she was going to wait on it. You don't really tell people what to do in program because it's their choice. You're just supposed to be emotionally supportive. So she says she's going to wait. And then the next day, either the next day or the day after, she calls me with an update, and she says, yeah, like I totally was. She didn't say tripping. She was an older white lady, so she didn't say she was bugging or tripping. This is my paraphrase. She said, I was totally like losing my mind because with some sleep I felt better, and also I was able to get this need met elsewhere. So the need for her wasn't that she needed her washing machine fixed, but it was a core wound that if I break up with him and detach from him, then I'm going to lose the one person who I can always call for anything. And then I'm going to be alone. I have a core negative belief that people that there's only a limited amount of people in the world who will actually all be there for me. And so I have to stay attached to this because I'm unlovable, because I'm not enough, because people always leave me. And so that's what she kept playing out by reaching out to him. That's what she needed. That's what she needed with him, right? But she wasn't going to uncover that by just doing gray rock or trying to be friends with him because he was always going to be there to medicate the wound, to be the band-aid. She would never have to feel that. She would never have to, she would never get the opportunity to acknowledge that that was underneath because she would still have these different crumbs and interactions with him. And so we do no contact, again, not for the other person, not to teach them a lesson, not for revenge, but because we're like, I am somehow, for some reason, powerless to this. No matter how many times I try to use my willpower to just be strong and not care and date other people or sleep with other people or pray to God or do whatever, this is still here. And I don't know why. So we remove the drug so that we can see what's underneath, do the work there. So let me know if that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense why it's been so hard. Absolutely. Gosh, I'm getting all your comments messed up tonight. Tasha said, I said I've been seeing TikToks about no contact and seeing that many are doing no contact only so that the person will want them more and come back to them. Yeah, no contact as a process for like getting someone back and like a seduction and everything has been around forever. Like people have been using that as a seduction technique since the beginning of time, right? So like that's not anything new. I think it's destructive though, because I think if you have to manipulate anybody to be with you, you've already lost. I think that there's a whole group of people who are using those skills and tools because they don't know that they deserve for someone to be head over heels in love with them and to chase them to the ends of the earth because of what they see. And maybe to the point that some of these techniques happen is because it's someone who is love addicted who may have been very clingy, but they were very clingy because they didn't know their worth. And they felt like they had to make something shake with somebody else. So I think telling someone who is love addicted to over focus on somebody else and continue to make whether or not this relationship resolves or they come back to me, my world, is continue to not have a healthy self-concept for yourself. You're continuing to make yourself sick, So that's what I say. Leah says very true. This is making so much sense. Thank you for responding. Of course, my dear. You start to see you're okay without that person. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if it is somebody, let's say, people always ask me the question all the time, can a love addict and a love avoidant work? Absolutely. We're just talking about trauma responses. We're not talking about people who are forever broken. It's just, we learn certain ways to connect and we can unlearn, but both people have to do their own work. They have to, you can't do work for somebody else. And I think sometimes people think that if they become so healthy, that means that the other person is going to come in. But sometimes what happens when you get healthy is, yes, that person falls into place because now the rotation, now the system, the way y'all interact is different. And sometimes you get healthy and you realize that you don't need them. And when you're love addicted to someone and someone says that to you, it doesn't feel secure to you. It feels horrifying because it taps into where you are right now emotionally, but I don't want to live without them. Like you can't even fathom that it's even possible for you to not only be alive, but be happy, be truly happy. Like not even like what you do sometimes when y'all are talking to each other and you try to distract yourself that you're happy, but like you can be truly happy and open and loved and with people who love you, and it can be easy. Like you don't believe it. And you can't believe it until you're able to actually be in your body and be disconnected from them and truly be okay. You don't believe it. Tasha said, yeah, no contact really has shown me that I don't need him as much as I thought I did. You don't, girl. Deb says anticipating, and then I'm gonna take a few more comments. Actually, I gotta go pick up my son, so I'm gonna read what I can, and then I gotta go. Anticipating, I will have to go no contact with my spouse who I'm planning to divorce. But how do I do that with our 20 and 22-year-old kids when at home? I don't want it to be awkward for them. Yes. Oh, Debbie, wish I could answer. I can't. That is a deep question. And that is literally, honestly, why I created the group. So I think even if I did have time to answer, it's so nuanced. I would want to answer you fully. So if you're able to join the group, please join us. You can go to blackgirlsheal.org/no contact. The link in the bio should take you there directly. But here's what I'll say. I'm going to throw back to something I said earlier because I think you've been here the whole time, and thank you so much for like being so interactive. We'll go back to something I said earlier. Your narcissistic ex is in charge of his. I'm assuming. I think it's a he. I'm assuming it's a he. He's in charge of his own actions, and so he's in charge of the fallout that's happened from what he's done. Also, your kids, even if they weren't grown, if you told me that they were 2 and 3, your kids see the chaos and destruction that's happening that comes from daddy. They see what happens, whether or not his narcissism shows up in anger or whether or not it shows up with him emotionally holding you hostage and withdrawing resources from you and from the kids. And like, they see it, they know it, and they felt it. So your kids do not want you to be harmed anymore. I promise you they don't. And they're not fools, right? What's a different word for that? They are not ignorant of what's going on. Sometimes we make decisions and abandon ourselves thinking that we're doing it for other people. But if anything, what I've seen more than anything, Debbie, and why most of us are here is because we watch mothers and mother figures and sisters and aunts and cousins and women in our life continue to be taken advantage of. And we never got good images of what it looks like to choose us, to take care of ourselves, to know that we deserve better, to know that we deserve to be loved. And your kids, sons or daughters, need to see that. Your sons need to know that it's not okay, not only for their mom to be treated that way, but if they're on the way to being like some people who have narcissistic parents, some become narcissists themselves, that if they are on their way to narcissism themselves, that they take a step back. Your daughters need to see like that at any age, it's never too late for you to choose you. That is not, I think sometimes people, especially with no contact and other things, are like, well, I've already answered the phone, so I should just agree to the lunch. Or, you know, I'm already this far and I'm too old to start over. I'm too whatever, I'm too that. And as long as you have breath, as long as you have breath, it's not too late. You get to change your mind and choose you at any time. And you being happy and you being full and you being healed is the best gift that you can give your kids. Your kids need a mom that's not depressed, that's not self-doubtful, that's not feeling shame for things that you didn't even do, because that's what narcissistic abuse does. It puts shit on you that's not even your fault and that's not even it's true. Like he's not owning his shame so much to where you have picked up the shame and you think it's your own. He is acting so shameless that there's shame everywhere and you're picking it up, you're personalizing, internalizing that shame as your own, and you're becoming shameful. That's not your shame. He is the one who has broken up this family, not you. And you get to say, if he were to say, you know what, Deb, I don't want you to leave me. I don't want you to divorce. Let's give this some more time. You get to say, I understand that you want to try, and I believe that you want to try, but at this point, I've given enough and I'm done. You can say that at any time. And that's your choice. And you're not a bad mom, you're not a bad wife. It's like, how much do we have to suffer to prove that we're good people? When has suffering equated to that we're more worthy than other people? Me being depressed, me feeling like crap, me feeling like second best, me feeling me having a hard time getting up in the morning, that makes me a better person. Well, then I guess I'm gonna have to be a shitty person. I guess, I guess if I gotta make this choice, I guess it's time for me to be selfish. Because me being a good person for your kids are 22, for at least 23 years of my life, me being a good person has not worked out. And I think 23 years is enough time to try something and say, okay, I think this isn't working anymore. So I hope that's helpful. Um, this is great. Thank you. That's me, of course. Okay, I'm just scrolling. I can't read anything else because my baby's like, where's my mommy? Speaking of mommyhood. All right, I gotta go, y'all. I would love for y'all to join us. Again, we're starting on Monday. Join, introduce yourself. The materials are already up for you to read about the no contact process and some of the tools that we have in place. I plan on bridging any gaps of things that are not there as tools for no contact. And yeah, and also I don't think I said this before. If you join and you do want to do the recovery school program, you'll get a discount towards the larger program for being a part of the group. So well, that's it. All right. I love y'all. blackgirlsheal.org/no contact or the link in the bio. I'm so you're the best, Sheena. Thank you, Deb. I'm sending y'all all of my love and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. Bye.